Welcome to Hey, it's Carly Rae's Book Club. This is Book Hour where authors will talk their latest novels, reveal their writing process, and play some fun book games. I'm your host, Carly Rae. Today we have USA Today bestselling author Viola Shipman. Today we're going to be talking about his first holiday novel, The Secret of Snow, if he enjoyed creating a winter wonderland holiday novel, who his favorite character was, and where his inspiration comes from when crafting a novel. Plus, we're going to find out more about Viola's writing process. We'll dive in right after this. Welcome, Viola. I'm so excited to have you on Book Hour.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Tell us where you're joining us from.
I'm coming to you from Saugatuck, Michigan, which is a little resort town on the west coast of the Mitten, where I learned a lot about you already.
Yeah. Now, is it cold, snowing, or anything yet?
Not yet. We're actually, knock on wood, we're having really nice weather right now. It's about 70 and sunny today, but the changes in the air. It's supposed to get a little rainy and freezy this weekend.
Okay. Well, you are set to release your first ever holiday novel, The Secret of Snow. Without giving away spoilers, tell viewers what they can expect from protagonist Sunny Dunes.
You can expect a lot from Sunny Dunes. In brief, she is a 50-year-old meteorologist in Palm Springs, California, who only knows sunny days and perfect weather. And she finds out she's being replaced by her young punk of a boss, by an artificial intelligent meteorologist, and she has a epic meltdown. She gets drunk, and I won't give too much away, but it goes viral, and she finds out the only place that will hire her back is the Northern Michigan station, the town where she was raised and where she ran from. So, this is a woman I love because she's over 50 and she's had incredible real life experiences and a lot of love and loss and grief. And she's probably one of the funniest characters I've ever written.
Is she based upon anybody you know?
She's based a lot on me. People always ask in fiction how much is true, and a lot in this novel is true. She's based a lot on me and my childhood. She loses a sister when she's young. I lost a brother when I was young, and just kind of how that changes the trajectory of your holidays and your family. And at the holidays, there's so little room sometimes for grief. And her mother is based on my mother, who always thought she was Ellen. So, somebody compared this to a literary Ted Lasso, which I love.
Now, I did read a lot of your novels are inspired by your grandmother. Is The Secret of Snow also based upon a story?
Yeah. That's the number one question I always get is why I chose a pen name for my fiction, and it does sound like a little bit of a Victor Victoria situation. A man writing under his grandma's name, women's fiction, but I grew up in the Missouri Ozarks. My grandparents were all working poor. My grandma Shipman was a seamstress. She stitched overalls her entire life until she couldn't stand straight. She saved pennies, for me to be able to go to college, so that I could have a better life than she did. And my grandmother, I grew up with my grandmothers in their kitchens learning to bake, in their sewing rooms, and at the beauty parlor watching them get their hair did. They put glitter in it. And she shared so much of her life with me. And, I went to college, and so many books that I read were about men fighting in war, and there really weren't female protagonists that were like my grandmother and my mom, good women working hard and trying to do the right thing. So, it's the smallest thank you that I can give to her for everything she gave to me. She wanted me to become a writer.
That's awesome. Well, one thing I'm curious about is why write a holiday novel now? What prompted you to center a plot around the magical time of year?
I am the king of Christmas. So if you if you follow Viola Shipman or Wade Rouse on social media, you will see that I'm that person you probably avoid at the holidays. Put up like a dozen themed trees, lodge trees and lake trees and kitchen trees. So I grew up, my family loved the holidays. My grandma Shipman, we used to have to cut a path through all the gifts she bought. And it just, it always represented to me the best time of the year and also the best of family when we come together and just stop for once and celebrate each other, and just slow down finally. So, it's funny. One of my dear friends is Nancy Thayer, who's also a New York Times bestselling author, writes about Nantucket. And she asked me why I'd never written a holiday novel a few years ago. And I was like, hmm. So I loved it. This was probably the most fun I've had writing a novel because if you know Michigan, it's all winter, it's the longest season, and if you don't embrace snow, you're out of luck.
So you are the neighbor where everything's lit up for the holidays.
Yeah, our electric bill is like $800 every month. And we start, and Michigan, you get that one last nice day in October, and you better get it up because then it just the light bulb goes off. So, and I think we do it in Michigan because it's the snow. It is beautiful here, and it's gorgeous to celebrate the holidays. And I think you need a little light in amongst all the darkness.
Yeah. Well, what is your favorite chapter in The Secret of Snow?
Oh my gosh. There are many. I have to say a couple of my favorites are harkening back to kind of the childhood activities that we used to do as kids. One is making snow angels, which Sunny did with her sister and her mom, and she does again as an adult. Cardboard sledding. There are big cardboard sledding races in Michigan that adults participate in. Ice fishing, if you've never done that. So all of those memories, I think, have kind of really come to the forefront. And the other thing I think is just writing about what winter means. Sometimes here it's looking out and appreciating what's in front of you and just slowing down enough to enjoy the beauty and not trying to rush forward.
Yeah. Well, was the book always titled The Secret of Snow?
It's a good question. No. So my working title for the book all along was called The Lake Effect. So if you know Michigan, it's what's called the snow belt along Lake Michigan. So from northern Michigan, Traverse City, where the novel is set, all the way down almost into Indiana, Chicago, Illinois, there will be lake effect snow. So when cold air comes from Canada and it comes across the warm lake waters, it dumps snow right along the lakeside. 20 miles inland, it can be sunny, but here we get feet of snow. So it plays an important role in this because, here this woman comes from the desert back to a blizzard every single day. And I love that title, and I think it has great meaning, but my publishing team, especially marketing and sales, thought that people outside of Michigan might not know what it means. So, but they did let me choose The Secret of Snow. So I feel blessed on both sides.
Yeah. Well, what are you most excited for readers to read in The Secret of Snow?
Oh my gosh. I think most of all is it's a book about second chances. I think so many of us make mistakes in our lives, and we too often don't forgive ourselves for mistakes that we've made. And this is a book that really, I think, deals with a woman and her friends and her family that learn to forgive themselves once again and are able to move on with their life. So I'm really proud because it's a deeply, deeply personal novel and based on a lot of experiences that I went through. I believe that in life, we're often too defined by fear and worry. And once we let go of that, incredible things can happen in our life. So that's a lot of what centers the foundation of the book.
Well, there you have it. You heard Viola talk all things The Secret of Snow. Stay tuned because when we come back, we'll find out how Viola crafts his novels. back to Book Hour. I'm your host, Carly Ray, here with USA Today bestselling author Viola Shipman. Now, Viola, as I mentioned earlier, your inspiration comes from your grandmother. You even write under her pen name, as you mentioned. Was growing up hearing her stories what inspired you to write? You kind of touched on that earlier. So, did she tell you these stories and you got this inspiration, like, I'm going to go write a book about it?
She did. I grew up watching my grandmothers read a lot of Irma Bombeck, and I know a lot of younger readers don't know who she is, but she was a great American humorist, and she had a column that appeared in our little rural paper every single week. And both of my grandmothers used to laugh when they would read her. So that kind of always inspired me to want to start writing family stories. But, my grandmothers had all of these heirlooms. They had charm bracelets and quilts and recipe boxes, and they used to tell me the stories behind the charms, and where the scraps of fabric came when they would make a quilt. And they were very poor, so these kind of meaningless trinkets that we all take for granted really had incredible meaning to them. And after they passed away, I found boxes of their heirlooms in the attic, and it really struck me that my grandparents were never poor. They were the richest people that I'd ever known because they got what life was all about. Something we all struggle with still to this day, and something we've been reminded of these last 2 years. You know, they got it. They got that, having our health and having a home and friends and family, just each other, was what meant most. And that's what I always wanted to write about.
Yeah. Now, even when you were younger, you wanted to be a writer?
I did, and it's not a it's I always did. I tell that there's this horrible story. I grew up in very rural America in the 1970s and 80s, not good for all of this. And I there was a middle school talent contest, and I entered it, and I sang Delta Dawn, which was a very popular 70s song, while holding a faded rose, and I got heckled off stage. And my grandmothers and my mom were waiting, and they just said, "You better start writing about this or making sense of it in some way." And for Christmas, they got me a little leather writing journal. And I started writing from that day. So, but I always say this, it's not, my dad was a chemical engineer. Being a writer isn't something you think is feasible.
Yeah.
It's never going to sell, it's never going to work. And so you find the end around. I was a journalist and a reporter and a magazine writer and worked in PR for many years. But I truly believe that if you channel your unique voice that's inside your head and you write the book that calls to you, it's possible for everybody. So, I believe in being fearless in life and writing, and that's the key.
Yeah. Well, walk us through a day in your life when you write. Do you outline, already have the plot in your head? How do you go about crafting a novel? I know before we recorded, you said that you can't go to a coffee shop.
Yeah, I'm super obsessive. So I get up really early usually. I'm writing about 2 books a year now, so the deadlines are very truncated. So I wake up about 5:30 or 6, and I mainline coffee most of the day until I get super jittery. And I have a carriage house here in Michigan that overlooks the woods, and that's where I write. I write for about 5 or 6 hours a day, and I am not a plotter. It's a big question. I'm much more of a pantser, but my first books were all humorous memoir. So I knew the characters I was writing about. So I really start every novel first with a big question that I'm asking of myself or I want answered. I think readers want answered. And then I start doing in depth character sketches. But I do not plot.
Yeah.
I, I've been at book events with like Susan Mallory and Eric Larson, and they shame me because they they have 50 pages for every chapter, and I'm like, girl, I just sit down and go.
Yeah.
And I just feel too handcuffed the other way. I like the freedom to see where the characters are taking me.
Yeah. Now, one thing viewers might not know is you are also an acclaimed teacher and mentor upcoming authors. Does teaching help give you a break between novels?
It does, and I value it greatly. As we were talking, I truly felt that to be published, there was this secret golden key that was passed around New York, and only a few people got access to it. And I just learned after writing my first book that it really requires believing in yourself, the story that you want to tell, not being a copycat. Um, And teaching other writers and being able to inspire them means the world to me because I want them to be able to know that it is possible, that dreams can come true. I'm an Ozarks kid that had zero connections to anyone, and it's just a matter of listening and trusting yourself and writing the most unique book you can from your own point of view. We all use the same tool belt.
Yeah.
We don't use different words. It's just how we bring it to life.
Mm.
And I've been proud. There's been three writers that I have personally mentored that have gone on to have their books published by major publishers. So, it's possible. You just hard work, tireless dedication, and get it done.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. Stay tuned because when we come back, it's game time and we'll be finding out if Viola was a CEO of any company, what company would it be? Welcome back. It's game time. Now, Viola, the first game we're going to be playing is table topics. I'm going to be asking you hypothetical questions and you're going to answer them.
Okay, now I'm nervous. I have no idea what's coming.
All right. The first question is, what cartoon world do you wish you could live in for a week?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. Okay, I'm gonna go with two.
Okay.
And I picked two. So I'm gonna start with the Jetsons
Okay.
because as we were talking, I go to Palm Springs in the winter, and I just love that kind of sleek. It's the opposite of what I have here in Michigan. I love that kind of, and I would love to have a robot maid take care of me as well. And then I and then on the opposite side, I grew up loving the Flintstones.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I always wanted a car that you could power with your feet and then go and get like a giant thing of ribs thrown on the side of your car. So those might be the two I pick.
Okay. Now, what character would you be in the Flintstones and the Jetsons?
Oh my gosh. I probably wouldn't be Fred. I'd probably be Barney because I'd like to be a little simpler. I think that's a little easier for me. And then George Jetson, of
Yeah.
course. I mean, he ruled everything. So, and I mean, the way he flew to work, and it was, I mean, come on.
All right. The second question: if you could create any reality TV show and it was guaranteed to air, what reality show would you create?
Wow. I actually have thought about this. There's like multiple answers again, but one would be one called The Right Stuff. And it would be about what we just talked about having aspiring writers on, giving them topics to write about, and then kind of having like it'd be like American Idol or The Voice, where we could judge what they've written and help them along. And then I think even maybe I've thought of like a second tier where you have actors come on and act that out so you can kind of bring it to life. And then the other would be The Real Housewives. I used to cover the Real Housewives franchise when I was a writer for People. So I would like to do a Real Housewives husbands version in either Saugatuck, Michigan or Palm Springs.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I just watched them last night, The Real Housewives.
Oh, it's game on there. I mean, I used to cover the reunions. It was physically exhausting.
All right, number three. Would you sign up to be a colonist on another planet if it meant you could ever come back to Earth?
I don't think so. That's you have great questions. I don't think, I love everything here and I have so many friends and family here that I love. I love my life here, so I can't imagine leaving it.
Yeah, and never coming back.
And never coming back. I mean, think about that. I mean, we love going on vacation, but after a while, you're like, okay,
Yeah,
get me back into routine a little bit.
yeah. Number four. If your life was turned into a movie, what actor would play you?
Oh, they're great. I would maybe pick Neil Patrick Harris.
I
Uh,
love him.
I love him. I think he's a great actor, and I think he could probably get my background, my humor, my life
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah. And then the last one, if you could only eat the same breakfast, the same lunch, and the same dinner every day, what three meals would you choose?
Oh my gosh. I'm also very obsessive with food. Like I do eat the same things every day. I'm very ritualistic, but I kind of like, oh my gosh, that's hard because what would I do without I might pick breakfast.
Yeah.
I mean, it would fuel my day. I have to have coffee. I like wine, but I would always pick coffee over wine. I think I would pick breakfast because then you could change it up and fuel yourself. You
Yeah.
know, I could have my cashew cereal, I could have oatmeal, I could have pancakes, I could have waffles, French toast.
So you pick like everything, and then you have a variety each day.
I would. What would you pick?
What?
What would you pick, do you think?
Um, I don't know. I am kind of a dinner person, so but I'd be like you. I'd probably do a variety. I think that's smart. I'd pick, like some potatoes, have your meats and salads, and then
Yeah,
yeah,
and then graze from there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I asked this question to a couple other authors, and nobody had that answer. But I think yours is the best because I mean, you can't go wrong.
That's exactly right.
All right. Well, that concludes our table topics. Now we're going to be playing Would You Rather. So the first one is Would you rather celebrate Halloween or Christmas?
Oh, um, I think I would maybe lean toward Christmas because I do love the holidays. I love giving and getting gifts.
Yeah.
I love decorating the house. It lasts longer than Halloween typically, but let me say, if you've ever seen me dress up for Halloween, there's an adult parade here in our little resort town, and it is no boxed costumes, it is game on. So this year we're actually going as mermen, with long tails, and it's gonna be something. It takes about 8 hours to get ready. So, but I would still pick Christmas.
Well, I hope there's going to be pictures on social media. I need.
There's gonna be pictures, yeah. Lord help us.
The second one, would you rather eat pumpkin pie or apple pie?
I think apple pie. I love pumpkin pie, but we live about a mile from an orchard,
Yeah.
and we go apple picking constantly, and I love apples, and I love apple pie.
Yeah. Yeah. The apple orchards in Michigan are really nice.
Crazed. So it's yeah, then you could yeah, so apple pie.
Yeah. Number three, would you rather always be overdressed or underdressed?
Overdressed. I'm that person. We might be, brother and sister in many ways because I do the one thing I miss the most was getting dressed up and going out, and I like to if we go out to dinner or I do events, I tend to go overboard
Yeah.
because I would rather do that than be
Yeah.
too casual.
Yeah. Number four, would you rather spend a day in the snow or a day at the beach?
You're setting me up. Um, so I've written The Secret of Snow, so should say snow, but I can't. I'm gonna say a day at the beach. I love, the beaches in Michigan where I live are gorgeous.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than a beach day with a book and spending the entire day and watching the sun go down. That's heaven to me.
Yeah. And the last one, would you rather be a superhero or a famous villain?
So that's a great question because as you know, in cartoons and in novels, the bad folks always get the best storylines.
Yeah.
But I think maybe a superhero. I think helping people would be a lot better than hurting people.
Yeah.
But they also get the better outfits too, like Catwoman, the Riddler. I mean, come on.
Now, what superhero would you be?
I've been people always say Superman or something like that, but I think with the obsession with Batman recently, I love the backstories that they've been telling about him and his character, and there's the new one that's coming out.
Mhm.
I grew up reading Batman, so I'm always fascinated that nobody really knew who he was. I always wanted to live in a big city when I was growing up because I grew up in such a small town. So Batman, Gotham City.
Yeah. Well, that concludes game time. Viola, thank you so much for joining Book Hour. But before I let you go, tell viewers where they can find you on social media.
They can follow me, follow Viola Shipman on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, and or Wade Rouse as well. And I do Wine and Words with Wade every Thursday at 6:30 Eastern on the Viola Shipman Facebook page, and have great authors and talk about writing and inspiration and hope and voice and all good things. So, and go to violashipman.com for, ordering the books or any other information.
Yeah. And all of Viola's handles are in the description below. Viola, thank you so much for joining Book Hour. And for those watching, I hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much.